One.
Good evening. I'm Bernard Green, Chair of the Brookline Select Board, and this is the regular meeting of the Select Board for December 2nd, 2025. First order of business, I'm going to move that the Select Board go into executive session for the purposes stated in items 2 and 3 of the agenda. That is to say, for approving executive session minutes and discussing strategy related to real property. The real property matter must be discussed in executive session because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town, and the chair so declares an executive session therefore to be necessary. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Let's see, who's here? Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
Michael Rubenstein.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. The select board will reconvene in open session following our executive session. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Bernard Green, Chair of the Brookline Select Board, and this is the regular meeting of the Select Board for December 2nd, 2025. Let's start off with any comments or updates from the Select Board. David.
This past Saturday night, the Brookline Teen Center held comedy night. Michael Rubenstein and I were both there, as was Representative Vitolo. It's a fundraiser for the Brookline Teen Center. They conduct them at least 3 times a year. There's also their annual gala, and they have a casino night as well. Multiple professional comedians performed. The content was a bit raunchier than I expected, but people seemed to really enjoy it. And there was quite a crowd that was assembled. I'm not sure if you wanted to add any more.
The only thing that I would add is that my colleague here was called out for his dress, which was exemplary.
Okay, anything else? Paul.
Yeah, just briefly, this is for my colleagues. I did add a memo to the packet describing some learning experiences that we've had, I think, with respect to a flash poll for gathering some feedback from the community on the expenditures and revenue study committee. I don't want to go into detail for that. I do think that it's something that is a learning experience for us on other types of pollings that we want to do on other important activities that we want to get feedback from the community on. And I'd hope that at a future date, maybe it's a topic that we could discuss at a future meeting or one of our offsites, because I do think it's a pretty important subject and a good learning opportunity.
Good. We always want to learn. I have a, you have anything? Okay. I have a announcement. First Light is coming up on Thursday, 12th of December, the 4th of December, from 4 to 7 p.m. at Coolidge Corner. And there you can meet town officials as well as various members of our business community and have an interesting and fun time. So that's Thursday, December 4th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Coolidge Corner. Chaz?
I just want to take the opportunity, since this is the time back for meetings from Thanksgiving, to thank the police department and the senior center or the Council on Aging, the culinary program at the high school, and all the volunteers there for the work they did, providing the dinner on the Thanksgiving dinner last week to the community. It was just a really great opportunity. 115 people were served, really wonderful. And in addition, the health department was also in partnership with community partners, was able to hand out a number of Thanksgiving meals to folks who couldn't otherwise receive them. I believe, again, more than 100 were handed out in addition to having this event. And I want to thank particularly our non-governmental, nonprofit partners in the community who have really stepped up, in particular with the temporary loss of SNAP benefits and then the longer term reduction in eligibility for SNAP. The community has been extremely responsive. We have really brought a whole of government approach to that. It's a testament to the community's efforts, to our nonprofit partners, and to the volunteers in the community that do all this work. So I want to be, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I just want to extend our thanks to all of them for the hard work that they're doing, making this community a better place. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just one quick follow-on, Chaz. It triggered a thank you that I think we would all agree on doing, that while we were enjoying our turkey in whatever way we celebrated Thanksgiving, our first responders, public safety, police and fire, were on duty doing their work. And I know there was a couple of calls. So we're grateful for their service to our community. And hopefully they had some turkey and other treats delivered to the firehouses and police station. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Let's next move on to public comment. Charlie, do you want to make the presentation of the rules?
Sure thing, Bernard. Thank you for joining us for public comment. This is an opportunity for us to hear your perspective on the issues in Brookline that matter to you. Each person speaking tonight is limited to 3 minutes. You don't need to use the entire time, but you may if you like. Once 15 minutes has been met, there's an opportunity at the conclusion of the Select Board's business for additional comments. Members of the public sometimes raise questions during public comment. We may be able to provide a quick answer to a question, but are more likely to work with staff to get a more thorough answer and respond over email. We will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time is up. Please conclude your remarks at that time. If you have more to say, you are welcome to send an email to board members expressing your thoughts in greater detail. Any person wishing to speak must begin their comment by identifying themselves with their full name, either their Brookline precinct number or street address, and the specific topic on which they wish to speak. The board encourages, but does not require, that remote users turn on their video when commenting. The first person signed up for public comment is Ann Lusk. Ann, I'm not seeing you online. If you're in the room, please approach the podium.
the
And you're
room.
okay. Thank you so much.
I'm here.
All right, great. And your 3 minutes will begin when you're ready.
Did all of you get the piece of paper? Did you? I just want to make sure that you got that copy. I had Kate send it to you electronically because it was sent, but there it is.
Okay. thank you.
I want to make 3 points and then get your feedback. Number one, there was a study done.
We don't give
Okay,
feedback.
okay, sorry. Okay. Ann Lusk, 18 Hart Street, Precinct 5. There's a study done in 2020 for a pool in Brookline. That's the topic. There's going to be a new study done using town money from Senator Cream that was given to the town from the Brookline Revolving Pool, the Recreation Fund, and also from the Brookline Community Foundation. That was the Friends of the Brookline Pool Committee. So money's available, and it would be good if that money was wisely used. And we ended up with a pool study that was extremely useful because the last one that you have a link of did not inform as well as it could. The 3 locations that we'd requested, one was the Lars Anderson, the other was Putteram Golf Course, and the other was Fisher Hill. After the study came out, I had asked Erin about Putteram Golf Course, and she said, absolutely not. I asked about Lars Anderson. She said, absolutely not. She said, go to Fisher Hill. But now at Fisher Hill, there are so many competing demands. And now with the world as it is, we should not have losers and winners. We should figure out a way to put the pool somewhere. This morning, I had a Zoom session with Annalisa Onis Hayden. She's a faculty member at Northeastern. I asked her if we could have senior capstone students look at the 4.4 acres behind the town dump and study that land because there's a huge reservoir back there with a 3-foot high, 3-foot diameter drain pipe. There's no water in it. It's only a few pieces of phragmites down there. It did not function. So they could look at that land. There's a one-way road to get there. The town would maybe have 4.4 acres that they could use either for a pool or for some other purposes. I would also like the senior capstone students to look at Lars Anderson, the walled garden that used to be the rose garden that was also a vegetable garden because it has adjacent to it the caretaker's cottage. The caretaker's cottage could have the pool house in it, the changing rooms in it, so you're not building a building on Lars Anderson, which was the objection raised about the skating rink. It was be a building upright. You also would not really see the swimmers. The Olmsted firm had designed a pool that would be to the right of the Auto Museum, and that would be clearly visible with all that green space.
You
by
have
the
30
museum.
seconds.
I'm all done. All I need is feedback at some point from somebody of how I take the RFP from Northeastern and shop it around to all the right departments in Brookline. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Chaz will.
We'll
Respond.
follow up. Yes.
that concludes the list of folks who are
Chaz will
signed.
follow up. Chaz will follow.
We'll follow up. Thank you.
That concludes the list of folks who are signed up for public comment. Folks online can use the hand raise feature to let us know if they'd like to speak, or if you're in person, you could raise your hand and the chair will call on you.
Seeing no one, let's move on to our miscellaneous calendar. First, we have minutes from October 4 and November 18, 2025. Any corrections to those that have
I-
not already been made?
I submitted ones.
Okay,
They've already been made.
okay. So I move approval of the minutes for October 14 and November 18. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Paul Warren,
Aye.
David Perlman,
Aye.
Michael Rubenstein.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next, I'd like to take items 6B through 6I in omnibus fashion, unless someone would like to pull something out and discuss it further. No? Okay, I'm sorry, Chess?
No, I just wanted to highlight that included in here are two earmarks from the state legislature, and that we're very grateful to our legislative delegation, including Rep. Vitola, who is here tonight, for the opportunity. It's a great, it's just really important. It's an important aspect of how we are able to do business in the community, especially given tight local budgets. And so getting a local earmark is great. And I think the rep wanted to comment briefly on that. If that's
Please do.
Sure. We always appreciate what he does for us, and we have to give him an opportunity to talk about it whenever he wants.
Good evening. I'm Tommy Vitolo. I am Brookline State Representative, formerly the 15th Norfolk District. And I wanted to flag that one of the items in the agenda is a $100,000 earmark for blue bikes and blue bike stations. That earmark came from fair share amendment revenue, not general revenue. So you recall, we raised taxes on people who earn more than $1 million in a single year, and we used that money for transportation and education. And $100,000 of that money is going to be used to fund blue bike stations and blue bicycles and the necessary site work, the concrete work to make sure that they have a place to live off of the streets in Brookline, if of course you agree to receive the money and go ahead and spend it within the next year. I would remind you that these blue bike stations, they are not designed to have the biggest land area coverage as possible. They're designed to help as many people as possible. It's a network effect. They're only useful if they are near other stations because people can check a bicycle out of one station and return it to another station, but they need to do it within 45 minutes or an hour or the price ramps up. We no longer charge people money for returning their books late at the library, but we do charge them for returning their blue bicycles late because we want them in the system and in use. To that end, I would point out that people in North Brookline are far less likely to have a safe, secure, and easy place to store their bicycle. They live in apartments. Not all apartments have a bicycle storage room. They often are locked in basements. Those are common blue bike users. They just simply can't use their own bicycle in any reasonable way. And they are folks who are less likely to own a car, who are more likely to rely on the T. And we know the T is really good at getting folks downtown. It's not especially good at getting folks to Cambridge or to JP, sort of radially. There are buses. They come when they come. They don't all come on Sundays. They don't all come very often. Sometimes they get jammed up in Brookline Village. And so blue bikes are a remarkably effective alternative for some people to not drive and jam up our roads. It's a great resource, and you should think of it as public transportation, as a public transportation resource. Just like the T, it's not free, but it is low cost, and there are discounts for low-income folks. I would add that as part of the blue bike stations, including the one right in front of Town Hall, there are e-bikes, and there has been conversation amongst the town about e-bikes. I want to tell you about the e-bikes that Blue Bike uses. They are called Class 1 e-bikes. They are not like motorcycles. They are more like pedaling when you were 20 years younger. There's a pedal assist, and so it's a little easier to make it up the Beacon Street Hill to Coolidge Corner, right? But it doesn't pedal for you. There's no throttle. It just makes it a little easier. And so this is getting into accessibility for folks with disabilities, for folks with recurring injuries, for older adults for whom pedaling on their own power up Harvard Street Hill or up Beacon Street Hill is a little too much. And so these sorts of e-bikes are wonderful additions to the Blue Bike network. And they exist now. They are in our system now. The $100,000 is enough to purchase 2 Blue Bike stations, do the site work, the concrete work, and include some e-bikes in that purchase. I was delighted that my colleagues supported the earmark, and I'm hopeful that you will accept it and put those blue bike stations in sensible locations that really maximize their use. And I'm happy to answer any questions now or anytime.
Okay, thank you. Anyone object to accepting this earmark? Yes, blue bikes are not the type of e-bikes that we're concerned about in town with respect to safety issues, so long as the riders obey traffic rules. So.
Well, there's no guarantee that anybody, pedestrian, bicyclist, or motor vehicle
That's
operator
absolutely
will follow any of the rules, but we'll all hope that they do the best as they can.
Okay. Any other questions for Representative Vitola? No? Sorry.
I actually do. So the 100,000 is for Brookline. What about in terms of statewide? How much money has been provided to this effort?
So this is an earmark explicitly for Brookline for $100,000.
Okay.
Some of my other colleagues secured earmarks for all sorts of other things that were priorities in their district, and some didn't get an earmark at all.
Okay, thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Vitola. Okay, I'd like to just confirm that with respect to item 6H, I know this is true, but I just want to just underline it, that we're talking about sending a letter that is in our packet as Exhibit 2, not Exhibit 1.
Correct.
Okay, good. I won't sign Exhibit 1. Okay, any questions? Okay, let's vote. All in favor of items 6B through 6I, please indicate by saying aye. Paul Warren,
Aye.
David Perlman,
Aye.
Michael Rubenstein.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Let's move into our main calendar. Boards and commissions interviews. Let's start off with the Preservation Commission. I see Jean Wool is available to come up to the podium.
Hi.
Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and why you'd like to be on the Preservation Commission.
Okay. I'm Jean Roy. I live on Sewell Avenue in Precinct 3, and I've lived in Brookline since 1981. I did some work with the Preservation Commission a few years ago. I'm an editor, not an architect, but I did some work with the Preservation Commission on the,
Could you speak into the microphone? A little, just
Oh.
get closer to it.
okay,
There.
on the Olmsted Richardson Local Historic District. I'm interested because I think the Preservation Commission, it's an important element of the town. It performs an important balancing function between conserving the heritage on the one hand and recognizing the need for the use of historical buildings for contemporary needs on the other hand. And some of those needs might be to expand the housing supply. I think one of the attractions of Brookline is certainly the historical look of the town and the heritage of the town. And some of the commission's work, of course, is to preserve the appearance of structures in the local historic districts, while at the same time acknowledging the needs of owners for necessary updates. And I think all of these are important activities to the town, and I would like to contribute again to the work of the commission. I'm familiar with the commission, having worked with them as an editor. I'm a PhD historian by training and an editor by profession, having worked in college textbook publishing for nearly 50 years, mostly history and government texts, mostly for Houghton Mifflin Company here in Boston. I'm not an architect, like most of the members of the commission, but I think I can contribute as a writer and editor on things like communication to the public, local historic district study reports and other issues, and other study projects that the commission might undertake. Thank you for considering me for the commission.
Thank you.
Questions? No?
Well, I will ask whether people have questions. Any questions from the select board?
I do.
Yeah, Paul.
I have one. Gene, thank you so much for your application. I have the pleasure, it's usually a pleasure, sometimes it's not, of owning one of our historic homes that's in a preservation, in a historic district.
Which one?
Which,
Which-
you can look up my address, but I'm in Cottage Farm.
Cottage Farm.
So I really appreciate and understand the value of these historic homes, but also the challenges of owning one.
Yes.
And also the challenges that you have as potentially as a commission member in ensuring that we're good stewards of these historic structures. Could you speak about, you talked about your writing and editing, but could you speak about some of the things that you think might need to change or your views on changes that might have to happen with some of our regulations around these. So for example, I could think of windows,
Mhm.
typically we're requiring single pane, wooden windows. I happen to have all those, but what are some of your thoughts about the things that would be helpful to owners, but also keep in keeping with the historic character of these?
Yeah, well,
resources.
the commission writes new regulations every so often. And one of the main things they address are things like that, windows and it all has to do with the appearance, not anything having to do with the inside of the house, but the appearance of the house. And I think that at least in the time that I've been associated with the commission, they have changed some of their regulations, especially concerning windows. Was this recently that you asked about replacing windows or?
I'm not speaking specifically about my,
Yeah.
my situation, but assume I've had to do everything that you could ever want to do to a historic home. So,
Yeah.
so I do understand it, but I wanted your views about things like, making these homes more energy efficient,
Mhm.
solar panels,
Well, I
materials.
can't really comment on any particular place, but I do look at the minutes and the agendas of the Preservation Commission, even though I'm not presently on it. And my impression is that the commission is being somewhat more flexible about things like energy efficient changes and windows in particular.
Okay, thank you.
That's my impression, that it's not quite as rigid as it was at one time.
Michael?
And I think that's all to the good.
Thank you very much for your application, and I particularly actually appreciate the variety of experiences that you would bring to the commission. You spoke a little bit about communication and writing, and I'm wondering whether you have thought or ideas about how the Preservation Commission could communicate more broadly with the public in terms of its role and how the importance of preservation and the balancing of the issues as you've discussed already.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is a balancing act. But I agree with you. At least when I was working with the commission, it didn't seem like there was much communication with the public. And one of the things that we worked on was the Olmsted Richardson Local Historic District. And that got to it. I mean, it passed, and the renovation or the development is proceeding. But one of the things that didn't get done was to create a sign, a placard that would lead to people sort of near the water house on the reservoir that would set out a track for people to be able to visit the several historic houses. It's not just the Richardson House, but the John Charles Olmsted House and one other one, I forget what it is. But that never quite got that project. We wrote the placard, but of course it was way too long for the space available. And so one of the things we need to do now, and that would be a way of reaching out to the public, one of the things we need to do is get back to designing that so that people have a walk, a little trail that's going to introduce them to Olmsted, and it goes past the Olmsted House, of course, and then goes on to the Richardson House and the John Charles Olmsted House. So that's the kind of thing that I think we need to do on the more of reaching out to the public.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that you're not an architect or whatever, you're an editor. Am I correct in saying that there's no real requirement that members be particular skill set or have particular?
I believe
skill set?
that's correct. I'll double
Okay,
check.
good.
Well, I read through the bylaws, of course, which were sent to me by the office here. And the bylaws state that I think at least two, maybe it's three of the members need to be approved or nominated by the American Society of Architects. That's not quite the title of it, but it's something like that.
Right.
One of them needs to be an attorney, and that's Elizabeth Armstrong, who's already on the commission.
Right.
A
There
couple
are a
of,
number of specialized positions, but the position that you're applying for, that seat is not designated for.
Yeah, that was my impression, yes.
Okay, great. Any other, I'm sorry, David?
I see in your application, you're a member, you're a board of the Brookline Historical Society.
That's right.
Can you comment on how that experience would inform your role on preservation?
Yes, because the two organizations are linked but different. I've been on the board of the Historical Society for several years now, but that's much more focused on centered at the devotion house, and more centered on, well, look, for example, the archives project, which you may know about. Which is an application to use the Community Preservation Act funds for creating an archive of Brookline history. Our neighboring towns all have archives, and we don't. We have some stuff stored up in the 7th floor here, some stuff stored in Devotion House. So that is sort of linked, but not the same thing as the Preservation Commission. So I think one kind of informs the other, but they don't have really the same goals, because the Preservation Commission, of course, is a town commission that has these various responsibilities, whereas the Historical Society and its membership, mostly what we do is provide events for members and for the public, and keep the Devotion House, the caretakers of the Devotion House, which of course are town employees, respond to their needs for things having to do with Devotion House. And we do a newsletter, and there might be an opportunity for more interaction between the Historical Society and the Commission. And that's one of the things I'd like to explore.
Paul?
Yep. Thank you, David. Thanks for your question. But that's actually an excellent question.
It is, yeah.
And I wanted to plant a seed should, now that I understand the intersection here, every single one of our historic homes has a story. I researched the story of my home. I know who built it, why they built it. I know who lived in it. I know how long they lived in it. I know about their lives. And every single one of our historic homes has a similar story. And it would be wonderful to be able to connect the stories from research on from the Historical Society with the architecture from the Preservation Commission. That would be the intersection.
Well, the website of the Historical Society is excellent, and I don't know whether you've all looked at it, but if you sort by street, you'll get the street, and that'll be maybe the street where you live or the street you're interested in, and the photographic collection in the Historical Society website is also excellent.
Yep.
But I agree that there might be more of a connection there.
Seems like it. Thank you.
I have a connection to Cottage Farm myself, because the Amos Lawrence house is important to me, because I was an undergraduate at Lawrence College in Appleton, Wisconsin. So,
Named after Amos, huh?
yes, Amos Lawrence, yeah.
Something new I learned. Okay, thank you. We will be selecting people for the Preservation Commission at a later date, and we'll let you know.
Okay, so somebody will get back to me
Of
about
course,
this?
yeah.
Okay, thanks very much for considering me.
Okay, next, we have for the Building Commission, Jason Bowers. So please introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background and why you would like to be on the Building Commission. We apologize for the microphone being so low.
It's
Please,
been
try to
happening
talk
for
through
almost
it.
50 years. Good. Thank you. Nice to meet you all. I'm Jason Bowers.
Please try to talk into it as much as possible so that our vast TV audience can.
Okay.
You should be able to pick it up if you, it should come up a little bit.
I'd rather squat down.
Okay.
Thanks. I'm Jason Bowers. I live on White Place, and interestingly, with the prior conversation, we been living on White Place for 13 years in the oldest house in Brookline. We actually have a preservation deed restriction in our house from historic New England. I'm an architect by training. I've worked at Annam Architects, which originally was called Ann Bea Architects, and I've been there for about 20 years. Our focus is on transforming heritage and historic buildings. The work I've been working on is primarily educational, civic, and some religious buildings. I have worked with the city of Boston on a number of municipal projects, fire stations, studies for libraries, things like that. I'm very familiar with sort of state procurement and some of the complexities that towns and cities have to go through when they're building buildings. I'd like to be able to offer that experience and knowledge to the town that I live in. I have a 9-year-old son that is at Pierce right now. And we very much enjoy this town and all that brings to us every day. So really, it's about me being able to sort of give back to the community in some way. So.
Okay, yes. Paul.
Thank you. And did you say you own one of the oldest home in Brooklyn?
Yeah,
or one
yeah,
of
it's
them?
a 20 White Place. It was built in 1680.
That is pretty old.
Yeah, it was moved in 1860, so it was modified, but all the original framing superstructure is all chamfered by Suffolk, England craftsmen that came
Wow.
to Suffolk, Mass. So
You have fun with that house, I bet.
it's cool. Yeah.
So have you been able to attend commission meetings and?
No, I haven't. I did meet with Karen and I think Janet Fireman beforehand, and sort of get a sense of the lay of the land for the role that one plays on this and the general sort of structure of the people that are on the board. So
Okay.
Michael.
So thank you for your application. I'm interested in your perspective as an architect and the variety of things and types of buildings that you've worked on, whether you see any possible intersections between the responsibilities or the work of the building commission with other public bodies within the town. I'm partially asking this because that's an issue that the select board is also may look at in the future. So I'm wondering whether you have any thoughts on that.
in terms of how the commission relates, in you mean in terms of with the library and their planning, or the fire department and their planning?
Or other commissions that deal with town planning or preservation or other things related to our built infrastructure?
I guess I would say I don't have a strong opinion on that at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah. No, I mean, I think typically when with the work that I've done with towns as an architect, we are involved in communications with different agencies, and every town does it slightly different from my experience. So I think having more thoughtful people engaged in building for a town is a good thing. Particularly if you have folks that have background in that area. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, Dave.
Looking at the list that you provided to us of various projects
Yeah.
that you've led or played a prominent role in developing, I noticed that most of them appear to be academic buildings.
Mhm.
Then also public safety, of course, the
Yeah.
fire station, some religious institutions. Also on your list is an arboretum in Bristol, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
So was that more about landscape architectures, designing open space also in your bailiwick?
As architects, we frequently have large project teams, and Blythewald is an arboretum, and it is an estate in Rhode Island. So, like many projects, we have a team that includes landscape, and we enjoy working on those projects. And I think many architects have strong opinions about landscape, and we try to keep our mouths quiet a little bit sometimes, but they are folks that we frequently work with. And so in that example there, it was how a series of multiple different buildings are framed by the landscape and sort of contribute to the landscape. And that's typical for many projects, particularly at a planning level, where there are multiple buildings on a site. And at Blythewald, it's a significant arboretum. I've done work at Fort Adams in Rhode Island and other projects of that scale. So.
Right, and it's very impressive, the scale of structures you've worked on. Do you also have experience with individual houses?
Yeah, I pulled a permit for our house when we renovated it. No, prior to working at ABA Annam, I did some residential work, and the scale of our practice, it's interesting. There's firms that sort of do healthcare or firms that do schools. What we specialize in is, existing buildings, and so I've never worked on the same building program twice, basically. I mean, some of it's academic, but like a law school or a fire station or a museum or a historic fort. So it requires us to be pretty nimble. But with that comes a wide range of scales. So we do work on smaller structures. I've done sort of existing conditions reports on like visitor centers that are the size of this room, or, even, for some of the sort of parks, those kinds of places, we did the work at the Emerald Necklace. I didn't work on that specifically, but a wide range of different building scales.
So it sounds like you do a lot of adaptive reuse if you're
Yeah,
trying to
absolutely.
preserve.
Yeah, and new construction too, but the firm was founded in preservation as part of the preservation movement in the mid 70s. So we're familiar with both. Frankly, new construction's pretty boring once you start having to work with an existing building. There's a lot of surprises and stories in them that makes it more challenging and interesting.
Thank you.
So, based on your experience here in Brookline, both
Mhm.
pulling permits for your old house and talking to Janet Fairman
Uh-huh.
and Kara Bruton, what would you bring? What would be your contribution to the building commission based on your unique background?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple things. I mean, I think one is just this sort of how projects might get bid out, a knowledge of the contracting environment. That's one thing. I like to think that Annam Architect, where I've worked architects for 20 years, we engage in a really high level of design, and we're very proud of the design work we do. And we've tried to bring that level of work to municipal areas like the city of Boston, like the fire station we work on. So I hope it's some sense of an understanding of what a high level of design is, and being able to sort of help bring that to the town. And I think the town has done a great job with some of the schools and things like that. But I think, again, also it's about having an understanding of when these projects are under construction, what is the typical path for working with the contractor and things like that, because it's not easy in Massachusetts with publicly bid projects. And my sense is that if one was a architect, there needs to be an architect on it, and they'd primarily done residential work. That's different from working on municipal projects. It's a different, I'd say it's a different skill set. You deal with different materials, different scale of contractors and things like that. So that I hope to bring some of that knowledge of that sort of larger scale of construction to the town.
Okay, thank you. And we will be making decisions on appointments to the building commission at a later meeting. And we'll
Thanks so
let you
much.
know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have, oh God, let's see. Oh, Philip Steigman.
Philip is online. I've just promoted him.
Oh,
Philip,
great.
looks like you're all set.
Hey, Mr. Steigman, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and why you would like to be on the Diversity Commission.
Yeah, great to see everybody. Thank you, members of the select board. I really appreciate the chance to talk to you again. Yeah, so a little about why I'm interested in this. My work and life have both been centered around helping kids, families, and communities feel connected and supported. I've spent more than a decade in state government, and now I work nationally with communities around the country, helping them align education, health, and youth programs so that families experience dignity and belonging wherever they go. And that's been the through line for me, making systems work for real people. I'm also a Brookline parent of a 7-year-old, and like a lot of parents here, I really want every family to feel like they belong and can access what they need. And that's actually what led me to co-petition Article 21. The whole idea was simple: bring our systems together so every child and caregiver feels a sense of connection, safety, and respect, no matter what door they walk through. And it meant a lot to see it pass, I think unanimously, through the select board, advisory committee, and town meeting as a resolution, and that was the resolution for Brookline Thriving Children and Youth. And that told me that the town's ready for this. But honestly, the need isn't just here. I'm working on a national project that's called Connected for Kids, and we're seeing the same things everywhere. Kids are growing up with less real world interaction and a lot more time on screens. Jonathan Haidt captures this well in The Anxious Generation. When the real world isn't offering kids enough belonging, they go looking for it online. So the question for all of us is, how do we build communities strong enough to pull kids back in? Communities where they feel known, supported, and part of something bigger. I think Brookline can absolutely do that, and that's why this commission feels like the right place to contribute. Brookline has a history here. We had the Human Relations Youth Resources Commission, and today the DEI Commission has oversight of programs serving youth. Article 21 is really the next step in that ongoing work, making sure that we're coordinated, thoughtful, and proactive about belonging and equity across the places where kids and families grow up. What I bring is experience helping different groups work from the same playbook: educators, youth programs, public health, community organizations. I'm used to bridging perspectives, creating shared language, and turning values like inclusion and safety into everyday practices that people can feel. And I try to communicate in a way that's clear and accessible. I'm always thinking about how to make people feel heard and included. So that's really why I'm here. I'd love to help Brookline build the kind of connected community that kids need right now. One that's strong enough and welcoming enough to compete with the pull of the screen. It would mean a lot to me to be part of this work. Thanks again for taking the time to talk to me.
Okay, any questions? Paul?
Yep. Philip, first, thanks for all of your work on behalf of the children and those who support children in Brookline. As you know, I have 2 young kids myself, and you really spoke to me about helping children today get connected to the real world versus the screens and digital communities that they all seem to be drawn to. I'm curious about some specifics about how you might accomplish that. Frank, first of all, I think it'd be fantastic to have your perspective on the commission. A youth-focused perspective would be really helpful. But could you provide a couple of specifics about how you might help? I have a 2nd grader. I just got him involved in Scouts, which is new, and he's loving it. But it's a totally foreign thing today to have clubs and groups like that. We're not doing enough of that. Could you speak a little bit about how you might help 2nd graders, for as an example, get connected in Brookline?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is understanding of sort of the best practice, and that's actually the work that I'm trying to do nationally. We have this idea about a toolkit. So what could a Scout leader best understand about how to keep kids connected and how to make them feel like they belong? And there are absolutely concrete strategies. We talk about sort of designing experiences around kids' personal interests. We talk about asking them, hey, how's grandma, how's basketball practice? So I think within each of these sort of communities of practice, whether it's youth sports here in Brookline, or whether it's the scouting community or the faith community, or schools or after-school programs, there are sort of evidence-based practices that really promote this. And so I think the work of the commission within that oversight capacity, or at least the technical assistance capacity that they have in working with youth programs, can offer guidance and technical assistance, if not oversight. They can certainly apply best practices. And one of the things that we wanted to do through Article 21 was sort of a framework, and say, what are these indicators that kids are on the right track, spending, more time with humans than with screens, showing signs of connectedness and not disconnectedness. And I think that's work that we could, sort of start thinking about again. I know we haven't done a lot with Article 21 since the resolution was passed in the spring. And I'd love to use this as a springboard for thinking about what we hold dear as a town. And we know about sort of test scores as the only real indicator of how kids are doing. What are the other indicators that we'd really like to look at as well? There's, data from the youth risk survey that we can use. around connectedness and those other kinds of things. So that's the perspective that I would bring with me, and that connection to the communities of practice and the research communities also that are looking at these kinds of things.
Thanks. Thank you, Phil, for your answer.
Michael.
Thank you so much, Phil, again, for all of your work in this area. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts, since it's part of the work of the commission is to think about the diverse sets of identities within the town, and how people think of their own identities, and how the sense of fostering identity might tie into the ideas that you've mentioned around communication and the other work of the commission.
Yeah, absolutely. And where my background, I think, specifically relates to children and youth programs, the importance of seeing yourself reflected in these kinds of activities or in, communication materials. Representation really matters, and the most important thing that we can do is for the individuals, the children and the adults that we're serving, for them to see themselves sort of represented within the activities, that they are culturally responsive to the needs of the individuals. We know about connectedness and belonging as the most important things that we can offer to children these days, and that whatever activities they do should be sort of experiential and play-based, and that's how they stick. And that, the learning and mastery is the most important work of these years, but that connection and belonging and relationships are the secret sauce that make it stick for kids. What the experts can't tell you is how to make that real for an individual child, and only the community can answer that, and the family and the child themselves. So there are strategies around making sure that a child feels like they're, connected to an experience, that they're represented by an experience, that they feel like they have a voice and a choice in the way it comes, across and is offered to them. So I think that's certainly top of mind for me if I'm, part of this commission as well.
Okay, David.
Question I have, looking at your prior work experience, I see that about 20 years ago, you were the director of the Mattahunt Boys and Girls Club of Boston. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that experience would help inform upon your work on this commission.
Oh yeah, no, that was 20 years ago. It was a long, yeah. That was my dream job. So my background is youth development. So I got started as a 19-year-old work study student, working at a youth center in Burlington, Vermont. And that's, sort of where I cut my teeth in this work. And I went to grad school right away after college at what used to be called Wheelock College in family studies, just so I can get a director job at an after-school program. And that was it. So that was a program in Mattapan, with serving a high proportion of children from low-income families, children of color, mostly Haitian American families and Latino families. I think what I learned there is to Michael's point about the importance of sort of cultural identity and making sure that these experiences are relevant to children. The goal of the 21st Century Community Learning Center program, which is federal funding that right now comes from education but might be moved over to labor soon, is reducing socio-emotional barriers to academic learning, and promoting that feeling of attachment that actually shows up in school attendance rates. So it's sort of seen as a wraparound service. And to do it effectively, we really did need to make sure that those activities, I learned a lot about double Dutch jump roping. I learned a lot about Caribbean cooking. And, these are the experiences that I think you bring with you. And you just, if you're doing this work right, you're really lifting up the community to do it and sort of facilitating those experiences for them, and giving them a place and a platform to do it. You're not the chef, you're really, sort of in the background, facilitating and enabling things to happen that might not have otherwise happened, but offering those, resources, the technical assistance, the training.
Great. Um, my question is, did you learn how to do double Dutch jump
No,
rope yourself?
no, my feet and my brain don't
Okay.
effectively communicate with each
I
other.
have a more serious question. You talked about kids being stuck on their screens and not interacting with
Yeah.
people in the real world. One of the consequences of that, in my opinion, I think research shows that people, not just kids, but people become more um, sharp and strong in their views and begin to uh, create divisions in their community or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, you know, my view is this, and it's my strongly held view, and I'm not going to be very uh, willing to compromise with your strong views over there. And that, of course, is an issue in Brookline, just like anywhere else, and including on the Diversity Commission. So I thought maybe you had, wondering if you had any thoughts about how you overcome some of the divisions that we have in this society generally, including here in Brookline, in a commission such as the Diversity Commission that has that as one of its
I do
missions.
it. I mean, I dig in, I go into Facebook comment groups and I engage. It's hard. I mean, the only answer I have is to get off the computer. And nothing good comes out of spending too much time behind your computer. I'm not a Luddite.
Well, I'm thinking about how would you approach that in the room at a meeting of a diversity commission or some other town board where there are these strong opinions one way on both sides, on multiple sides.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds simple, but find common ground. Discuss ground rules. Like what are the goals that we have for this commission, and use those as sort of the grounding North Star of this. And anytime you start to get off track, and heated and/or political, just say, okay, bring it back to our charter, bring it back to the reason why we're here. It's so easy for us to go down this path right now. And I agree, Bernard. Like, I think social media is a huge part of that, as well as our attention span and less time spending time with individuals and more time spending time in our echo chamber. And with kids, the ability to have healthy relationships with peers because of COVID and also because of screens starting to really cut into their attention span. Much easier to just tune out and go into the virtual world. So these are absolutely skills that we need to, continue to hone, and not let go of the rope, because the next step to, not to be doom and gloom, but I will be just for a second, the next step to, disconnection and isolation on your computer can be political radicalism. It can be suicidal ideation. Nothing good comes out of this, except if you're able to use AI effectively for your work, for instance. I don't have a problem with that. But definitely more time with each other. Community has always been the antidote. Connection has always been the antidote to disconnection.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. And as I've said before, we will be deciding on appointments to the commission at a later meeting, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for your consideration, and have a great night.
Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is, let me find that page and I'll tell you. Town meeting update, Melissa Goff. This should be interesting. Melissa?
Good evening.
Good
In your
evening.
packet, you should have a memo from me that essentially summarizes the outcome of town meeting and indicates any action that the select board would need to take, in, whether it be from a resolve clause or a bylaw or something that would ask for the select board action. So we put this as a follow-up to town meeting, looking for any feedback that the board has on it, and any item that is outstanding, we'll add to the futures list for future consideration.
Great. Any comments, questions for Melissa?
It was a very efficient town meeting.
Yes, and a very efficient.
We were
memo,
grateful.
Melissa.
Very efficient memo.
So, okay. Anything else you want to add?
I will let you know that we did receive notice that the foie gras ban got approved by the Attorney General's office, and the constable will be posting it momentarily. So that will probably be taking effect within another week or so.
Okay.
Get it while you can.
Bummer.
Well, you can, someone said. Okay. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, boards and commissions, appointments and reappointments. We have the Commission on Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Relations, Chi Wu for reappointment, and also the Commission, Elisa Cantu for reappointment. Any discussion? Paul?
Yeah, I do. I do want to discuss Chi Wu's reappointment. I first want to ask my colleagues, has everybody had an opportunity to read Jesse Hefter's email to us?
Oh, I didn't get that one.
Okay, because I was gonna skip reading it, but I am gonna, since you haven't read it, I'm gonna read it. And this is with his permission. So he sent this to us. It's in our packet. And I'm gonna read this because it is consistent with sentiments and concerns that have been raised to me by others in the community. I just read this because, you know, Jesse is a member of our Jewish community, and he's articulated quite well a number of the issues that have been raised about Chi-Chi's service on the commission. I'm going to read it and then I'll make a brief comment. Bernard, I'm going to ask you to be gracious with my time. I don't want to rush through this.
How long is this going to be?
It's going to take a couple of minutes. So thank you.
Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes.
Thank you. But don't cut me off. It's an early night. So this is from Jesse Hefter. Jesse is, for the public, he's a member of the school committee. He's a town meeting member. I think he serves on either the pedestrian or the bicycle advisory committee. I think the pedestrian advisory committee. He writes, "Dear members of the select board, I'm writing in my capacity as a Brookline resident to strongly oppose the reappointment of Ms. Chi Wu to the Brookline Commission on Diversity, Inclusion, Equity, and Community Relations. The purpose of the CDICR is to support a welcoming environment by encouraging cooperation, tolerance, and respect among and by all persons who come in contact with the town of Brookline, by advancing, promoting, and advocating for the human and civil rights of all through education, awareness, outreach, and advocacy. In the wake of the October 7th, 2023 mass killing in Israel perpetrated by a documented terrorist organization, Hamas, Ms. Wu posted disinformation on social media, denying the well-referenced brutal sexual assaults of Israeli and other victims. She further posted comments that accuse Israel of intentionally killing children in Gaza, language that echoes classic anti-Semitic blood libel. These are not harmless opinions. They are harmful falsehoods that fuel hatred, re-traumatize victims, and make Jewish residents in Brookline feel unsafe and unwelcome. In one particular cruel twist, Ms. Wu, when informed that fewer Jewish students were applying to Harvard University after October 7th due to the explosion of campus anti-Semitism, she publicly posted that the situation was not as bad as there would be more room for Asians. This is not there is no apology that can explain such behavior. Ms. Wu is an adult and a professional in her chosen field. Her decisions have consequences. As a commission member, Ms. Wu is expected to represent a balanced, open approach to Brookline residents and visitors of all backgrounds. Her posts show otherwise. It is beyond inappropriate for someone who spreads such divisive and inflammatory content to serve on a committee tasked with fostering inclusion and respect. Reappointing her would legitimize polarization and undermine the commission's credibility. I strongly urge to reject this nomination. He goes on a little bit more. Sincerely, Jesse Hefter. Now, my thoughts. I do appreciate Jesse writing this letter, but again, it's consistent with other messages, phone calls that I've received from members of the public, specifically the Jewish community. And I appreciate he took the time in sharing this. Our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Relations Commission has a deeply important mission to foster a welcoming community, to build trust among residents of all backgrounds, and to model the respect and empathy that we expect throughout Brookline. Commissioners must embody these values in both their work and their public conduct. After considering Ms. Wu's statements and how they have been received by members of our community, and specifically our Jewish community, I do not believe that her reappointment would strengthen the commission's ability to advance its mission or maintain the confidence of those it's meant to serve. This is not a judgment about her as a person, nor a dismissal of her past contributions and advocacy, but rather a recognition that the commission's effectiveness depends on commissioners whose public actions strengthen rather than undermine the confidence of the full community it is meant to serve. Upholding our values requires ensuring that those representing this work can bring people together rather than deepen the divisions. So for those reasons, I am unable to support the reappointment of Ms. Wu to the commission. Thank you.
David?
I am similarly unable to support the reappointment of Chi-Chi Wu to the commission for the reasons well articulated by Paul. I have similarly received calls from multiple members in our community who expressed a lot of dismay, to put it mildly, at the possibility of having someone who has been this divisive remain a commissioner on our diversity commission. Again, this commission is meant to foster inclusivity and openness and to be accepting toward all. And Ms. Wu's conduct has at times been extremely divisive. This commission is not going to be considered credible if we automatically reappoint individuals who have a lot of opposition in the community based on documented conduct by those individuals, as the Jesse Hefter letter points out. As my colleagues may recall, we also had Neil Gordon at a prior public comment speak to some of his concerns, which overlap those of Jesse's, but they were not identical. And multiple people have expressed this. I'm not trying to indict Ms. Wu as an individual. As Paul said, she has contributed a lot of good to our community, particularly her advocacy for our Asian population. She is a member of BAFN. She would continue to be a member of BAFN. Even if we didn't have these concerns being brought to our attention by members of the community, we have also discussed as a board in the past trying to spread out committee assignments so that we bring in a broader array of people into our governance. And Chi-Chi Wu is already on several other committees. She is still going to be an active member of our community. But for CDICR to have this kind of division, it really hurts the mission of the commission. It hurts its credibility. We have several other people, I believe, who have applied to the commission. So I'm not in a position to be supporting her.
You want to say something, Michael?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I want to express my appreciation both for the people who have come forward with their comments, as well as my colleagues for expressing their strong positions. And I appreciate and deeply respect those positions. I have a couple of, as I do in many complicated situations, different values to consider in this matter. The first, and let me reference the quote that you made with regard to Harvard applications, which was, I believe, also referenced by Mr. Gordon when he made his public testimony. There was within that that communication, that posting, there was an emoticon or an emoji that came after her text. And while I am not an expert on emojis or emoticons or what their communication signal is, I think it is important to, when you are referencing somebody's communications, particularly communications on social media, that you include those signals within their communications. In this case, I believe the emoji had something to do with either the craziness or absurdity of the situation, or was a statement of irony. Obviously, she is not here. I don't believe she is online in order to explain what that emoji means or what it was her intention to mean. But I think it is important for us to recognize complete communication and not being out of context. That's point number one. Point number two is that my understanding is that Ms. Wu is currently the only person of color on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, or will be shortly after somebody else moves off. And I appreciate the messaging that we might make by appointing her, but there is also messaging to be made by not appointing her and having a diversity commission, which itself does not have a diverse range of voices. And so I would caution my colleagues to consider the balance of those two positions. This is not to in any way excuse her public behavior or her public messaging. But one of the aspects of being in community and being in a vibrant and diverse community is to respond, from my perspective, to respond to such commentary with both consideration and an understanding of the perspectives that are being presented. This is not to say that those perspectives are correct, but it is to recognize the grace and humanity of all of us as individuals. And even in those cases where we as individuals are not necessarily showing the respect that other people deserve, that does not excuse the rest of the community from countervailing with disrespect of their own. So with those things in mind and in balance and understanding this is not a black and white situation, and there is concern on multiple fronts, I am personally in support of her reappointment.
Right. Well, let me say, or give my 2 cents. First of all, I respect the positions that people have taken, and particularly the emotional nature of their concerns. This is a very emotional issue, and sometimes emotional issues can allow us to sort of miss some of the nuance. My position is that I oppose cancel culture. In most cases, I can't think of one where it's acceptable. I've been the target of cancel culture in this town, and with respect to one of the issues that a petition was taken out to kick me off the select board, signed by, among other people, a member of the select board. I have experience with cancel culture. However, I don't recall that Chi Wu actually put her name to the petition to kick me off the select board. So I'll give it credit for that. Regarding the substance of people's concerns, the comment about more room for Asians was just stupid. In fact, more than stupid, it was an anti-Asian comment, because during that time, it was not Jews who were being alleged to be taking seats in college campuses, in colleges that could be taken by other students, white students. It was Asians. Big push to not so much push them out, but to just highlight the fact that there are too many Asians in college campuses, especially the elite campuses. So that statement was really an anti-Asian statement, ironically, in addition to being, what I think was anti-Semitic. The other things that people have cited, they're repostings, and it's not clear what the repostings were in terms of the materials that we received. I mean, there's the allegation that Hamas committed sexual atrocities that she denied, but she was reposting something, and I'm not sure that it's clear that that she was supporting the fact that there are sexual assaults in this attack, which everyone knows, not just because we know from what happened on October 7, but that is just a consistent part of war. So you would assume that happened, and to suggest otherwise is not appropriate. And the other allegation is that she stated that Israel is killing Palestinian children. Well, I'm sorry, but the government is doing things that are killing people, children as well as others. Now, that doesn't mean that Israelis are killing people or that Jews are killing people in Palestine any more than the atrocities committed by the U.S. government means that Americans and you and I are killing people. So I'd like to know more information about that reposting, but I don't think that that is, in my opinion, a basis for denying her a seat on the Diversity Commission. And I think the point you raised, Michael, that the Asian representation that she represents would be gone if we kick her off, is a significant point. I mean, the Asian population in this town is almost 20%. And unfortunately, there's not enough involvement by that population in civic affairs. And Chi-Chi, who I disagree with on a lot of things, she runs with a different crowd than I do, nonetheless does represent in an important way the Asian community. I think that that's important. And, you know, I guess final point I'll make is that I have to be very careful about, or I think we have to be very careful about allegations of anti-Semitism, because they exist and they're real, and we have to fight against them. But we also have to be aware that it's one of the weapons being used by the current administration in Washington against Jewish communities. I mean, the people who are pushing this, you know, are right-wing, almost neo-fascist organizations and individuals, and they're arguing about anti-Semitism. There's something wrong there. You know, it's not intended to be helpful to the effort that we all should have to eliminate anti-Semitism and other forms of hate, which are all connected together anyway. So I'm going to vote, I'm not going to vote against her reappointment. So, David.
Just one point. When we talk about the importance of having representation from people of color on the commission, I certainly agree with that. But Chi-Chi Wu is not the only person of color who could possibly serve on this board. We have a very large Asian community in town. So that alone, in my view, should not be a factor. Also, I want to be clear that I'm not making any direct accusations that she as an individual is an anti-Semite. I wouldn't do that to somebody without knowing that person. That's not at all my point. But the commission that she's applying for reappointment to is about inclusive, is about inclusion, it's about having people feel welcome. And these remarks at a minimum, based on our conversation, even for those of you who sound inclined to support her, there is controversy around it. There is dissension. And why would we want to have our diversity commission have that type of dissension on it that can lead to lack of credibility? Our Jewish community in Brookline is also quite substantial in size. And many have reached out to me from the Jewish community, to you as well, evidently, Paul, I don't know if to the two of you as well. And they would really be alarmed by having us reappoint someone who has been this divisive in her public conduct. I'm not aware of there having ever been an apology. I'm not aware of there having ever been a broader explanation around the emoji that you brought up, Michael. When others have made controversial remarks or statements, usually they have been followed by an apology and by corrective action. And I don't think we've seen any evidence of that here.
Yeah.
And this happened, or some of these incidents happened 2 years ago. So that's a difference to me and why I don't see this as cancel culture. Also, it's the specific position being applied for, our diversity commission. It's not that she's applying for the building commission, in which case her viewpoints on certain political matters would not be as relevant. But for the role of diversity commission, it is important. And so it is a black and white issue for me in the sense that having anybody who's going to be this divisive and undermine the credibility of such an important commission, I think we're doing a disservice to the town and to the other members of that commission.
Any other comments?
The only thing, I would just add one thing, Bernard. First, I always appreciate your experience and your wisdom. I think you bring a lot of that to the table. I have the number of times I put my foot in my mouth. I don't care to count because it's impossible to count. Generally, when I do it, I either recognize it or someone tells me, and there's some fixing to do. You've done that yourself. Many times. And
No,
it's
not many times.
a few times, but it's one of the things that I have deep respect for you, because when you do step in it, you generally acknowledge it. So this is not an indictment of Ms. Wu. It's not a cancel culture. I hate that term. She has done tremendous good. She's a strong advocate. She cares deeply. She's a very passionate person about the causes that she cares about. And she is effective and is a very effective advocate. But this particular situation has reached over into, I really feel strongly that it's disqualifying because of the divisiveness. This is the diversity, inclusion, and community relations. And if you're doing things that are harming diversity, inclusion, and community relations, you really shouldn't be serving on the committee. If this was ZAB and we had someone coming before us and they wanted to be on ZAB and they were tweeting in their off hours about, the oil industry is so important, we need to do fossil fuels, we'd go, sorry, your views are not consistent with the values and charge of the commission. That's what's going on here. This is not canceled. Chi-Chi serves in many capacities. She'll continue to serve in many capacities. I just don't think it's beneficial for the community or for the commission for her to continue in this service. So I haven't been moved to change my opinion.
Okay, well, let's vote. Okay.
Want to make a motion?
Well, I will. So, a potential note here, since it seems like you're split, you don't have.
I'm gonna move that.
Oh, wait, let's.
Well,
Thank-
I don't want to wait.
Well,
on this.
we have to wait.
Okay. No.
Well, I mean, that was my question was, do you want to wait to have a fifth member so that you
No.
have something one way or the other?
I think we should. I mean,
In the absence, the other thing here is historically when someone is not reappointed to a board, there's usually I am not aware, and I don't think Melissa's aware of a situation where in recent memory, there's been a public non-reappointment. Usually if there's someone who's not going to get reappointed to a board, they know, and they know why. And so that potentially, and what happens is either they don't submit for reappointment or they do, and the board just takes up someone else's nomination and puts that person in place. So I don't know necessarily if you want to, so if you don't want to wait now, if you want to say, no, we're going to actively seek out someone else, that's fine. You can do that. I think but being split as you are, the practical impact of that is that the candidate will continue to serve until such time as you find a replacement. You're not taking them off the board. You're saying until such time as the select board finds a replacement for this person, they'll continue to serve.
Unless presumably somebody makes a motion to call for her resignation.
Well, again, I want to do some research on this.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't
Okay,
happened
so
in a long time.
I don't think we should be calling for a resignation. I think people called for her resignation before, and we were told that you can't consider tweets, it's free speech, and you can't ask someone to resign. At this point, we're at a point of reappointment. She was on the agenda a month ago. For some reason, it was delayed. I don't know why it was delayed. You know, it was no secret that there were concerns about the reappointment. I'm not sure why it was delayed. At this point, we've had the discussion, we've spent the time on it. You know, I would like to make a motion.
Let's continue discussion. I mean, before you make your motion,
Okay.
I want to say I was out of the country last week, so no one contacted me. This appears to be an organized effort against Chi Wu. So
I know of no organized effort against Chi Wu.
pardon me?
I know of no organized effort against Chi Wu.
Well,
Over the
we
past
got
two-
about
over the
12
pa-
emails that
Oh,
basically said the same thing.
over the past 2 years.
Let me finish speaking.
Sure. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm almost finished.
Okay. Go ahead.
So we got about 12 emails that I read today because I just got them today from people basically saying the same thing. 3 issues. Number one, she reposted something about denying that people were sexually attacked by Hamas. Number two, that actually reposted something about Israelis killing Palestinians. And number three, the old posting she made a couple years ago about you know, how more room for Asians. You know, this sort of came out of nowhere. And I'm wondering, you know, whether we should act on something that, you know, came out of nowhere without giving it some more thought and more time to be digested. David?
So I think you've been taking Philip Steigman's words to heart about not being online, because this is not new. This has been swirling for about 2 years now.
Yeah,
Lots of
wait,
people.
the one comment about more room for Asians.
No more. Also, some of her remarks regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict. This has been going on for 2 years now, people commenting about it, people expressing their concerns. And like I said before, there has not been an apology that I'm aware of. There hasn't been corrective behavior that I'm aware of. And we're not looking for a resignation. We're not looking for a removal, but we don't have an affirmative obligation to reappoint people.
Right. We have an affirmative obligation to be reasonable in our actions, whether it's voting against reappointment or whatever. And, you know, Chi-Chi, I don't follow Chi-Chi online. A few things I've seen. She has a position on the Israeli-Gaza war that is a position that many people hold in this country. It's not anti-Semitic. It's reasonable. You may not agree with it, and it may be somewhat on the extreme, but just to use that as a basis for denying her position on the commission, I think is just not reasonable.
So Bernard, let me be really clear about my view on this. I wrote my remarks for tonight's meeting before I received Jesse Hefter's email.
Okay.
I parked my comments because I thought Jesse articulated it better. The thing that I didn't include in my remarks were the messages about whatever it was, retweets that you're claiming. My fundamental issue is saying that when students were making it clear that they were Brookline High School students that were making it clear they were not going to apply to Harvard because of the anti-Semitism that was going on campus. She knew that, and she responded to a tweet. She tweeted that there was more room for Asians when someone said that Jewish members weren't applying. That's enough. I'm not going to talk about emojis, Michael. Just hold on. You're not going to change my opinion. I'm not going to get into emojis. That's what she wrote. Okay. That in itself at the time created such a firestorm with the Jewish community. For we as a appointing body cannot have commission members on this particular commission that have done something so divisive as to alienate a vast majority of the Jewish community in Brookline. It's just, it's not possible. So I cannot be moved off of this, rethinking about it for another week or two, whatever you want to do. It's been on the agenda. I prepared for it to be on the agenda. And I'm going to move that we vote on this. I'll make the motion. You're not going to like it, but
Oh, it's not gonna look good that we have a divided board either, but let's.
Well, we have a divided, the reason why she shouldn't be reappointed is because in addition to having a divided board, we have a divided community about her. That's not the place for someone on the diversity commission. An inclusion
We
committee.
don't know how divided the community is on this, but let's vote. You
Okay,
have a-
so I'm gonna move that Chi-Chi Wu be appointed reappointed to the diversity commission.
Wait a minute.
But there's logic to my reasoning for making that motion.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, so you can vote no. Okay, a motion has been made, all in favor of the motion that Chi-Chi Wu be reappointed to the commission. Please indicate by saying aye. Paul?
No.
Warren? David Perlman?
No.
Michael Rubenstein?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. So that's a split vote, and that means she's not appointed, right? Okay.
There's no majority either way. Yep.
All right, okay, so that will be in the record and, we'll deal with it. Okay, we have next another appointee to the commission, and that is Elisa Cantu, reappointment. All in favor, unless there's discussion of her too?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Paul Warren,
aye.
David Perlman,
Aye.
Michael Rubenstein,
Aye.
chair votes aye.
And if you were,
Wait, hold on.
I was gonna ask a question.
Okay, what's the question?
My question was if the board would be open to it, I don't need a lot of time to think about Philip. I would be happy to nominate him for appointment to the Diversity Commission. I think he'd make a fantastic.
Okay,
commission.
we had 3 individuals that we interviewed, and it would be unfair to just pick him out.
Okay.
Okay, unless, Charlie, is there anyone in the audience wishing to make a comment at the end of our meeting?
Well, if folks would like to make a public comment, they can raise their hand in the room or online, and we will we'll promote you to speak.
Okay. No one in the room, in the crowded room.
Okay,
is
we have
raising
12
their hand.
participants online and no one is raising their hand.
Okay, in that case, I hereby end this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.